Hey guys, and welcome to a new episode of the Know Your Formula One track series. This week we're heading to Baku for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The Baku City Circuit is one of the newest street circuits in Formula One and has held Grand Prix since 2016 only. With a length of 6 kilometers, it is the third longest track on the calendar this year after Spa and Jeddah. It has 20 corners and 2 DRS zones. Baku has one of the longest flat-out sections in Formula One with 2.2 kilometers. This is where the highest speed in Formula One was ever recorded. It was in 2016 when Bottas recorded the unofficial record of 378 kilometers per hour in his Williams. Baku has a unique layout which is sometimes considered as a hybrid between Monaco and Monza. At its narrowest point, the Turn 8-9 Old Town complex, the track is only 7.6 meters wide, which is narrower than the famous hairpin in Monaco.
I mean, this is by far the tightest corner that we've ever seen. You know, you just turn in, the wall is right there. You have the brick wall of the old castle. Uphill, blind corner, so really challenging.
However, the other parts of the track are really fast, with 3/4 of the lap being full throttle. There are only really 2 words to describe Baku, and it is treacherous and unpredictable. But the best way to understand Baku is to drive it, so let me jump into the sim and show you what a lap of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix is all about. The lap begins with cars reaching speeds of around 350 km per hour after blasting down Nefstilar Avenue, with DRS being activated only around where the pit lane entrance begins. The start-finish line isn't far from turn 1, the first of 4 90-degree turns that form the first sector of the lap. As always is the case with street circuits, it's all about risk versus reward of getting as close to the barrier as you dare to extract as much time as you can. The run from turn 2 to 3 is the second and final DRS zone, which leads into a corner that's had its fair share of incidents and drama in the past. After turn 4, drivers will swerve to the right to set up for turns 5 and 6, which basically feels like a very long chicane. Now we enter the most scenic part of the lap as cars enter the Old Town section. Braking around the 75-meter mark for the very sharp turn 7 leads driver quickly to the infamous turn 8, the narrowest part of the track, and then briefly uphill towards turn 12 left, trying to avoid the curb on the inside. An exhilarating downhill run awaits drivers as they keep full throttle past turns 13 and 14 before straightening the car for the entry into turn 15, another very treacherous corner. Drivers will brake before the 50-meter board for turn 16, using all of the exit curb on the right to carry the most speed for the final stretch, the end of which offers the best passing opportunity on the track. This next set of turns, which includes 18, 19 and 20, are all easy flat. The DRS detection zone is right here, and that's a lap of the Baku City Circuit. The fastest race lap was done by Charles Leclerc in 2019, and it was a 1:43.0. He also has the fastest qualifying lap, that was in 2023 with a 1:40.2. By the way, I will be making these videos for every single track on the calendar this year, so if you don't want to miss any, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Now let's get back to these 2 words I mentioned earlier. And the first one is treacherous. The nature of Baku being a street circuit means that walls are threatening at every corner on the track. But there are 2 very specific corners that have seen a higher rate of incidents than any other on the track, and those are turns 8 and 15. The slightest of errors can bring the harshest consequences, as we've seen many times in the past several years of F1 running here. It's nothing new for street circuit, but these 2 corners really are racking up some points.
I am stupid.
As I mentioned earlier, this track has the longest flat-out section in Formula One, and cars will reach over 350 km per hour as they blast down Nefstilar Avenue. This stretch isn't fully straight and actually starts at turn 16, but the corners in between from 17 to 20 aren't really considered turns anymore in this generation of F1 cars. And in fact, this stretch encompasses the entire 3rd sector of the track. However, drivers have mentioned in the past that the entry of the pit lane, which is right in the middle of where the cars will be doing some of the highest speed on the track, is too dangerous, and that's because of the placement of the wall that separates it from the track. And this is what Nico Rosberg had to say.
Because look, you're arriving down here now at 350 kph. Now look what's on the left. Imagine something breaks on the car here. You're at 350 kph. On the left there, just 4 meters to the left, there's just a wall. I mean, and it's facing you. So if something breaks here, you're in that wall, it's the end. There's no more you. So this is one of the most scary places that I've ever driven an F1 car in. To go by there just feels ridiculously wrong.
In 2021, Lance Stroll and Max Verstappen both had tire failures, and specifically where Max crashed, we could see how dangerous it could be. The YouTube channel Crash Along did a great recreation of what would have happened if Max spun left instead of right when his tire failure happened. Needless to say that it is pretty scary. And while the FIA made some updates to the rule for the pit entry and exit for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, I still think it is way too dangerous. And since we're talking about the pit lane, let's not forget what happened in 2023 when Ocon pitted on the last lap. Media and other personnel were allowed in the pit lane before the end of the race, and that could have resulted into a catastrophic incident.
Did it scare you, or did you see it coming?
I mean, it scared me. I'm in control in the car, but would not have liked to be the one in the middle of the pit lane there. Insane moment, yeah.
All the facts that I just mentioned are reason why the Azerbaijan Grand Prix can lead to very surprising races, which takes me to our next word, unpredictable. And in fact, in 7 years of F1 races in Baku, we have seen 6 different winners. However, it was only 2 constructors, Mercedes and Red Bull. But anything is possible this year, so I wonder if we might see a 3rd constructor, maybe McLaren or Ferrari, take the win. The first ever winner in Baku was Nico Rosberg, who did a Grand Slam for his first win in Azerbaijan. Ricciardo, Hamilton, Bottas, Perez and Verstappen followed him as winners of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But it is Perez who is the most successful driver in Baku with 5 podiums, including 2 victories. As mentioned earlier, due to its tricky layout, mistakes in Baku are severely punished. And this is why there is a 67% chance to see a safety car. This unpredictability makes for either very entertaining or very boring races. As we all know, the deployment of a safety car can completely change the outcome of a race. This is how we've had some very wild races, just like in 2017 when it was crashes and chaos all over the place. And other years we have just a very flat race, just like last year. Unfortunately, it is often crashes or mistakes that will lead to exciting races in Baku rather than the track layout leading to good racing. And one year worth mentioning is 2018. Verstappen and Ricciardo were fighting pretty much the entire race, and they were able to avoid a collision until lap 41 when they finally crashed each other in a very dramatic way, taking both Red Bulls out of the race for the 2nd time in 3 races. This gave Hamilton the opportunity to take the win. Talking about Hamilton, there is one last moment that I want to mention, and it was in 2021. Hamilton mistakenly switched on the brake magic button, which made him lock up into turn 1 right after the restart of the race with only 2 laps to go.
They get the lead. Lewis Hamilton takes it away, but he locks up and he's lost it.
Did I have the magic on?
Yeah, but just knock that off.
I could have sworn I turned it off.
Yeah, you did, but knocked it on with the upshift.
This mistake had significant consequences for Hamilton, because if that didn't happen, he would have taken the lead from Verstappen for the championship title. Now, last year we saw Perez take the win, closely followed by Max Verstappen. But now that we've talked about everything there is to know about Baku, let me jump into the theme to discuss strategy and recent news in Formula 1. Hey guys, and welcome to Baku for this new Drive and Talk session. And today I want to start with the strategy for this track. Because of the nature and the layout of the track, the cars will need to have a high top speed, but they also need to be performing well on slow speed corners. So they usually go for a hybrid setup, and they really need to optimize the car for this track. So it is usually a one-stop strategy around Baku, but as you know, there is a fairly high chance of safety car, and I think the teams have to be prepared. Obviously, if there is a safety car, depending on when it happened during the race, it can be an advantage for them to do a 2-stop strategy rather than 1. We often see teams and drivers being on different strategies depending on what happens during that race. Now, the weather can also impact the strategy, and until this year, this race was actually always before the summer break, so the weather might be a little bit different this year than it used to be. However, I checked, and for this weekend it seems like it's gonna be actually fairly nice, in the low 80s. sunny for the most part, especially on Sunday. I think Saturday might get a little bit windy, but overall it should be a pretty nice weekend, so I don't think there are going to be any surprises when it comes to the weather. Definitely no rain expected, which is probably a good thing because it could be really chaotic if it was raining here. Now let's talk a little bit about the recent news in Formula 1, and the first one that I want to mention is Adrian Newey going to Aston Martin next year. In a previous video that I made, there were just rumors, no one knew where it was going to go, but it's now official, and they also announced that he would receive a whopping $30 million salary. It is pretty insane, to be honest. It is more than most drivers on the grid. Could be a game changer for Aston Martin, and I am sure that Alonso is more than happy with this news. Now another news is the confirmation of Antonelli to Mercedes next year. I think we all expected that. It was just not yet official, but there is actually quite a bit of controversy about that. A lot of people and even current drivers are saying that he might struggle a little bit, that the learning curve is going to be more important for him than other rookies maybe on the grid next year, and he's going to end up in a pretty big team right away, which I'm really happy for him, and I'm really excited to see what he can do. I think he's going to do great. I think he's a great driver. But there is still some controversy around him, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Now, as you may know, Magnussen got a race ban after getting too many penalty points this year, so he is not gonna be racing this weekend, and it is Behrman who is going to replace him. It's gonna be really interesting to see what Behrman can do. I think this track is so tricky. It's probably one of the hardest on the calendar in my mind. I am not big on street circuits, to be honest, but I am curious to see what Behrman can do. We have seen him in Jeddah when he replaced Sainz for the race, and he did amazing. He finished 7th, got some points for the team, and that was also a very difficult circuit, so he's probably gonna do very well, but we'll see what happens. Now the last of the Formula 1 news that I wanted to mention is around the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and they basically announced that this year they're not planning to go as crazy as they did last year in terms of the entertainment and the glitter and all the stuff that was going on around the track. That was really not racing related. So I am actually really happy to hear that. I know it was probably really nice for the fans that were there, but it just seemed like the race was secondary to everything else that was happening, and that was kind of sad. It's just that wasn't Formula 1 to me, so I'm glad that they realized it. I'm curious to hear what most of you think. Would you attend the Las Vegas race, or do you think it is just too much? Even though I live in the US and actually not too far from Las Vegas, I don't think that would be my first choice. I would probably rather fly and go somewhere farther, but just do another race. This is definitely not my number one choice. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about the last race in Monza. What an amazing race it was. Obviously, as a tifosi, I am a little bit biased, but I was so happy to see Charles Leclerc take the win. He really deserved it, and it was really a good strategy from Ferrari. They did really good. Now, obviously, it wasn't expected to see a Ferrari take the win, and the McLarens were very strong over the entire weekend. Norris had pole position, and that was pretty incredible what happened. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy with Piastri being able to race Norris and being able to fight for a podium position and even wins. A lot of people think that, you know, he should basically let Norris pass him and help him get more points for the championship, but I might be one of the rare F1 fans that think that drivers should be able to race, and even though I would rather see Norris than Verstappen take the championship title this year, I still think it would be unfair to Piastri to ask him to give away, you know, race wins and podiums because of Norris. I don't know. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts though. I'm sure most of you think the opposite than me, but I think that's it for today, so let's move on to prediction time. Okay, so it is prediction time. Last week no one got it right. I think a few of us were really close or had the right people on the podium but not in the right order. For this week, I'm gonna predict that Leclerc is gonna take the win again, just because I think this track might be a good one for him. He actually got pole positions a few times there, so hopefully this year he can get the win. I'm gonna put Norris in second, and I think Russell might do good as well, so I'll put him third. But I'm really curious to hear what your predictions are, so don't forget to let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed watching, please give this video a like, and I'll see you in the next one.